Hello and welcome to my lecture on women and biodiversity conservation as part of your course on biodiversity conservation. Today we will talk about the entry points of different genders, the two different genders, when it comes to their special relationships with biodiversity. So as you can see, the entry points for men and women in the entire design of nature are different because with that comes subsistence and use, and with that comes conservation and protection. It is also sadly true that women are the most badly affected group by climate change and global warming, and also women can play a specific, unique, true to their own intrinsic nature role when it comes to protecting nature. These are roles of a woman leader, these are roles of conservation activists, and these can also be roles of conservation biologists. Now, we all know about the divine feminine. If there is something like the divine feminine about the creator, the feminine side of the creator, of creation, it has always been culturally significant to find women closely associated with nature and that one particular quality of creation that comes from nature. So, traditionally, from various knowledge systems, we have the Gaia Hypothesis. We call the earth as Mother Nature. We call the earth as Mother Earth. And from the Indian knowledge system, there are various other terms like Annapurna, like Bhudevi, like Bhumata, Dharti Mata, etc., which are all indicative of the divine feminine, which are all indicative of the creation, ability of creation in nature, which are all indicative of a special relationship of care, of nurture, and of protection that is very, very true to women. So, going by the concept of women and biodiversity, we here propound that as compared to men, the entry point for women about nature is very, very different. And as the saying also goes, men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And they have been wired differently, they have been created differently, and they have been molded differently from each other. And that gives them an entry point with nature, gender specific entry point with nature, which is distinct from each other. And as you have seen in these various terminologies from various cultures about the earth being compared to the mother, about nature being compared to the mother, about when the deification of the earth is being done, then it is called a Devi, that is a female deity, and not a male deity or a male god. It's goddess, not a god. So be it Dharti Mata, or be it Bhumata, or be it Annapurna, these are all feminine connotations of nature, which is the substrate of biodiversity. And when we talk about pristine, undisturbed, inviolate forests, we call them virgin forests. Again, a term with close association with the women. Now we have to keep this in mind before we go ahead, about the different roles of men and women that we are focusing upon here in terms of their relationships with biodiversity, that this is nowhere to enunciate that they are unequal or there is a relationship of a superiority or an inferiority. There is something like them being arranged in any order of merit. No. Men and women have been created equal. Equal in status in the eyes of the God, equal in status in terms of their relationship with nature, but not identical. So it's a very simple term, but it clears a lot of air about the status of men versus women and about their relationship with nature. Equal but not identical. Please remember. So now I am going to talk about a very interesting example here. How the relationships of men and women are distinct from each other. How, for one, it is care, nurture, and protection, but for the other, it might be rapacious exploitation like acts of mining, etc. Now imagine a coastal village, small fishing village in a coastal area, anywhere in the world. It could be on an island, it could be on the coastal line, but a small fishing village where they don't have the modern means of commercial agriculture and commercial farming, and all that they have is subsistence fishing and subsistence agriculture. It could be the villagers in the Sundarbans, it could be the villagers on the small island of Sri Lanka, it could be a small, old, ancient fishing village anywhere. Men and women are contributing equally to the household and to the livelihood and playing equal roles in the society by performing non-identical tasks. Say, for example, because women have to be away from home only for a short while, what they do is that they fish in shallow waters. They fish in shallow waters for a few hours in the morning and then they're back home for the home and for the hearth and for the children. On the contrary, because for men it is possible to stay away from home and maybe they can afford to stay away from home overnight, it's possible that they go fishing into the deep waters, out to the sea, and they spend a couple of days there. So you must have all read The Old Man and the Sea, this famous classic by Ernest Hemingway. None of the men who went to the sea, none of the people who went to the sea were women. Actually, they were all back there in the villages, holding back families, holding back homes, and keeping the herds warm, while the men had all gone to the sea and they were spending their 2, 3, 4 days fishing for big fish. This never meant an unequal status or a status of inequality for either. This was only a division of labor, and this was very, very sustainable. This was not and has never been a threat to biodiversity. What becomes a threat to biodiversity is not a role reversal, but commercialization, which devastates this balance of differentiated roles between the two sexes. Imagine this is what has been going on for generations, for ages, for years in this fishing village. Women are fishing in shallow waters and men are fishing in very deep waters. Now what happens is, as a product of modernization and as a product of industrialization and as a product of urbanization, one fine day there is a commercial trawler based fishing company which employs the men on its trawler for massive indiscriminate fishing, which kills indiscriminately large numbers of aquatic biodiversity, whether they need them to eat or for eating or not, they are being killed. They do not even have turtle excluder devices. All marine and aquatic biodiversity is being killed by the trawlers and simply thrown away back in the sea when not wanted but dead. A massive, massive devastation to biodiversity, aquatic and marine biodiversity at all levels of the sea. There is fish, there is turtles, there are echinoderms, there are mollusks, all coming on the deck of the trawler and then, just being wasted. Men are a part of it, not women, because men are those who can afford to be at the sea for days, not women. But now that big fish is coming home in large numbers, in superfluous amounts, and now there is no need for women to continue to fish in shallow waters. Suddenly, the men have become rich, they have more money for drinking, they have more money for indulging in gambling and any sort of social misconduct, and women stop fishing in the shallow waters. They don't need to anymore. They become frustrated. They don't have education. They don't have economic empowerment, and they don't have any social status, because that one small thing that they were doing with their special touch of care, with their special touch of nurture, and with their ability to protect is what they cannot do now. What comes in as a byproduct of massive biodiversity depletion and destruction of the balance of nature and massive destruction to the marine biodiversity is also widening gap of gender equality. Inequality grows, gap widens, and nature is vandalized. Similar will be the impact on these small coastal and island communities, fishing villages, when sea level rises in case of global warming and climate change. So that was an example to explain the specificity of roles played by women and men separately in terms of subsistence and livelihoods from nature and biodiversity. So, contemplating upon this, we came to this sociological and philosophical concept called ecofeminism. Now, according to this concept, the domination of non-human nature by humans is congruous to male patriarchal tyranny and the domination of women by men, which has been the norm for centuries, which has been the norm for millennia, and which is something that only now is being tipped off its balance. So that's the concept behind ecofeminism. Say, for example, mining is called rapacious, an act that men commit, a heinous crime that men commit, rapacious mining. They do it to extract minerals and riches, gold and diamond, of course, from the womb of the earth by vandalizing its openings. That is why it is called rapacious. So ecofeminism is about the special relationship between women and nature. It's a critique of patriarchy, ecofeminism, patriarchy, male patriarchal tyranny actually. It puts value of care because nature needs care if it has to be protected. And ecofeminism explores the intersectionality and the interconnection between ecological balance and feminism, between giving women their due in society, in economy, in modes of subsistence, in livelihood, and hence also ensuring ecological balance. So over the years, there have been women environment movements. It is very interesting to note that the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, which was the first conservation organization in human history after the Industrial Revolution, was actually formed by some concerned citizens in the then Great Britain who were concerned about the plummeting population of egrets, the beautiful white birds. There are many species of egrets. The plummeting population of egrets whose breeding plumage, which are called egrets, very beautiful frayed on the edges plumages, they were used by women for adorning their hats, by women of aristocracy actually, for adorning their hats when they used to wear them and come out of their homes. So in order to sell these feathers, beautiful feathers in the market, egrets were being killed. And because of firearms, this killing of egrets had become all the more rampant. So rampant killing of egrets meant that their population was declining, and in order to check that, the Royal Society for Protection of Birds was formed. There have been national parks and sanctuaries, and there have been acts, domestic acts, and multilateral and bilateral treaties, and non-violent direct action environmental movements of grassroots origins to reclaim the natural environment. Grassroots, where the woman of the family is there, where the woman of the family has always known how to not be extravagant and how to manage in little resources, still put food on the table, still keep her children filled with food, away from hunger, and how to manage within whatever she has. So then this movement from the grassroots and then to the formation of the EPA in the US, the Environment Protection Act, and now it has spread all over the world. From the US, it came to India, Japan, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, and throughout Asia and the Pacific citizenry. Some examples of women's movements for saving biodiversity are very encouraging, of course. It was expected, it was very much expected that when there will be a need to save biodiversity, that 50% planet, that half population of the world, which is most affected by biodiversity depletion on the one hand, and which is also the one which had the more direct relationship with biodiversity, for keeping her hearth warm, for putting food on the table, for giving a wholesome, sumptuous meal to her many children. So that half population will rise. And history has it that this population has given its due. We know about the Bij Bachao Andolan of Navdanya. It's a civil society organization. In my next lecture, we will be talking about some women leaders in the area of biodiversity conservation. We all know about Chipko, this movement which was led by women all together in the Uttarakhand Himalayas, and they actually saved their trees. We will again, when we talk about Gaura Devi as a woman leader, we will talk about the Chipko movement in great detail in my next lecture. In Jerusalem, it's an international territory. It's a city where the followers of all three Abrahamic religions are found, and a city that is claimed by the followers of all three Abrahamic religions, that is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There they have a Women Interfaith Ecology Initiative and group. All they do is that women from all these religious faiths, they congregate once a week, once a month, and they talk about, say for example, what will be the impact on their families if the Jerusalem River were to be polluted, or if the Jerusalem River were to have no water, and things like that. So this is again a very inspiring example of roles women play, and this is of course also in the area of interfaith ecology. In our own country, the women of the Western Ghats are great protectors of the traditional medicines that are found in the medicinal plants, body parts of the plants, the roots, the leaves, the flowers, that are grown in the Western Ghats, that are extant in the Western Ghats. Women are the keepers of this traditional indigenous knowledge, where cures to diseases are found in indigenous plants, in endemic plants. And Western Ghats, of course, is also a biodiversity hotspot. We all know about the Bishnoi women. This is a community which follows Guru Jambheshwar in and around Rajasthan and around Delhi and in Haryana. And these women, they are from the Bishnoi sect, which follows the 29 niyam given by Guru Jambheshwar, and these are all principles of sustainability. One such principle happens to be never to wear blue clothes, because blue clothes are made by using a dye that burns, that harms the bushes, a particular bush found in that region. These women are so productive and so protective and so caring and so nurturing of the black bucks, that if a female black buck has died, leaving a young fawn, the women even allow these black buck fawns to suckle upon them. Black bucks you would have certainly seen. They look like deer, but they are not deer. They are an antelope. Their horns do not shed. The antelope cervicapra. It needs conservation attention, and the women of this community have come forward with great conservation attention to this particular species. Also, we have the example of the Maasai women, and again in my next lecture we will be talking about Wangari Maathai, she's no more of course, but she was a Nobel Prize winner. And the Maasai women in the Masai Mara plains of Kenya, especially in the Serengeti Mara plains, they have become lion guards for the African lion. So this is all about, I wanted to say today regarding the special role women can play in biodiversity conservation. One, for being women, for having care, nurture, and protection intrinsically built in them. And two, because when biodiversity declines, when we see a decimation in species of flora and fauna, natural species of flora and fauna, women are the ones to be affected first, and women are the ones to be affected worst. So they can play a specific role. They are fashioned, they are crafted in such a way that they can play a specific role. And with the help of these movements, and there would be many more of course, again this was not an exhaustive list, movements like the Beach Bachao and movements like the Lion Guards, etc., they have proven that they can always give special care to nature, and their role as conservationists, as conservation biologists, and their role as women leaders should be encouraged, and they should be given space in the workplace in order to practice the profession, pursue the passion for protection and for nature conservation, and for keeping biodiversity intact, and for mitigating whatever harms have been already incurred because of ill-conceived development and because of rapacious, again I would say, development interventions with nature, particularly led by men, where they have not been mindful of the rhythms of nature, of the balance in the ecosystem, and of the delicate functions of the wilderness. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you again in my second lecture, which will be on women environment leaders. Thank you.